For today's movie review, I'll be reviewing Doctor Strange, the first theatrical movie to feature the character, but the overall third film to be about the character, because back in 1978, you had the made-for-TV movie, which served as a pilot for a TV show that never got picked up. Then you got the 2007 straight-to-DVD animated feature, Doctor Strange the Sorcerer Supreme, which was one of the better animated movies to come from Marvel. Then you got this movie, but this could have been the second theatrical film to feature the character, because back in the early 90s, Full Moon Entertainment attempted to make their own theatrical Doctor Strange movie, even had a script done. However, since they didn't have the rights to the character, they decided to change a lot of the characters' names and locations, and thus created the 1992 straight-to-video Dr. Mordred movie. But in regards to this film worried me for three reasons. One, Doctor Strange isn't your average Marvel character, since he's more supernatural based as opposed to being science fiction based. Second, the person directing this movie is the same guy that directed the 2008 remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, along with the horror movie Sinister. And my third reason is the advertising, because the advertising to this movie makes this movie look less like Doctor Strange and more like the MCU's equivalent to Inception. So the big question is Doctor Strange the MCU equivalent of Inception? As for the plot of this movie, it's about this neurosurgeon named Dr. Stephen Strange, who ends up getting into his car accident, and because it's a car accident, it fucks up his hands to the point where he might not be able to get his old career back. And after Western medicine fails to save his hands, he decides to seek alternate methods of healing in the form of Eastern medicine, where he unwillingly gets caught up in this war between this group of monks and this group of sorcerers, whose plan is to unleash a great evil upon the world. And now Dr. Stephen Strange must choose between either getting his old life back as a neurosurgeon or becoming a part of the war while taking up the mantle of becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. In terms of what I liked with this movie is just a visual treat, because we've never seen anything like it before. Granted, with the other Marvel movies, usually I do appraise the visual aesthetics because they're really good. With this movie, the visuals in this are just gorgeous. Like, I could just take a screenshot and just hang it up as a picture. I think they're just that gorgeous to look at. Like, I think this was a movie that was made to be seen in 3D. I also like the fact that this is the first Marvel movie to introduce the supernatural aspect, because we've never seen anything like that before in the MCU. Because, well, the other Marvel movies have been primarily science fiction based. Also, the costume designs to all the characters, I think, are fantastic. And Benjamin Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange, I think, is just great. In regards to the other characters, they're okay. They're not the worst, but they do their parts just fine. Even the bad guy is kind of memorable in terms of his deadpan delivery. And probably one of the stronger parts to this movie is the relationship between Stephen Strange and Mordo. Like, I think it's really good, and I'm really interested in seeing where it goes from here. And I like how the trailer actually misleads the audience in a good way, because, again, going back to what I said about the trailer looking like Inception, it generally looks like Inception, but with those trailers, they mainly show clips from one action scene, because they're really hiding the best stuff in the movie. In terms of what I disliked about the movie, going back to the supernatural aspect, I am kind of pissed that it took Marvel this long to introduce the supernatural aspect into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because after I left the theater, I thought to myself, they easily could have introduced this back in Iron Man 3 and had the perfect opportunity, but they missed it. So we could have had a perfect comic book representation of the Mandarin, but we didn't. And the second problem I have with the supernatural aspect is it's a bit contradictory, because in the first Thor movie, it's established that what we perceive as magic is really just science we don't understand yet. Yet in this movie, they straight up just say, oh, magic is magic. Also, the first 20 minutes to this movie is a bit clunky in terms of its pacing, because it's trying to throw all these different characters and concepts at you all at once, and it doesn't really gel together. Granted, the pacing does get a lot better once Stephen Strange meets Mordo for his first time. I just wish that the first 20 minutes was a lot better. Also, during some action scenes, there's a lot of shaky cam, and not only do I have a problem trying to figure out what the hell's going on with said shaky cam, but it doesn't help that some of the characters alter the landscape Inception style, which makes the landscape that much harder to watch. And speaking of the fight scenes, the climax to this movie was really underwhelming, because all it consists of is Doctor Strange casting a spell that reverses time. time. It's not the most spectacular of climaxes in the MCU. And in regards to the villain of the movie, he's definitely one of the more threatening villains for sure. He definitely has a good motivation. It's just the character in a nutshell is basically what Mordo does in the comic books. And I don't like the fact that such a miscellaneous character as this villain is the main villain. Like, to get an idea of how miscellaneous this character is in the comics, imagine if they made a Spider-Man movie where the Wall was the main villain, whose goal was to bring forth Mephisto. That's essentially the kind of characters we're dealing with here. And speaking of conjure up the big bad, let's talk about Dormammu. Because on one hand, I was pleasantly surprised to see Dormammu in this movie because I didn't think he was in this movie. Then again, I don't think it would have been a Doctor Strange movie without Dormammu, since Dormammu is essentially Doctor Strange's arch rival. But I have so many problems with this character because he has very limited screen time. Like, out of 2 hours of the movie, he only appears in the film for 2 minutes. And also, I don't like his physical form as well, because he looks more like Galactus from Rise of the Silver Surfer, as opposed to having this flaming head and looking like this evil sorcerer. Like, I would have gone for that look as opposed to what we did get. So, for my final verdict of Doctor Strange, I really enjoyed this movie because Marvel, again, somehow managed to take a character that is as weird as Doctor Strange and successfully makes a good film about said character. Granted, I feel like there's some elements here and there that could have been stronger, like the climax, and I could have used a lot more Dormammu. Overall, the film in a nutshell is like a combination of the first Thor and Iron Man movie, and out of the movies in the MCU, it's not my favorite movie, but it's a good mid-entry. And before I give my final rating, what did everyone else have to say about Doctor Strange? The movie got really good reception. I mean, the movie's good. I just didn't think it was that good. Because for my final rating of Doctor Strange, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. So, what is your favorite supernatural element within the Marvel comics? And see you later.